An Indiana recruit, a new one, received a scholarship offer from the Hoosiers. A top 10 recruit visited Teri Moren and Bloomington as well last weekend. It's Recruiting Wednesday. Let's get you caught up on all the latest.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. You are Locked On Hoosiers, the one and only daily IU podcast. We're part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen wherever you're listening or watching us from. This episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors. Look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Indiana, as always, remaining active in the recruiting trail and have offered a name that I think a number of those following recruiting were waiting on them to offer this past weekend. Azavier Robinson, who is just outside the top 100 in the 2025 class, but a Lawrence North product, had an unofficial visit to Bloomington this past weekend to wrap up that wild, busy, crazy September that we said beforehand. We're not really going to know the impact of it at the moment, but we could look back and potentially see a number of big recruits, a number of future Hoosiers were on campus all within a couple weeks of each other. Xavier Robinson could be one of those. During his official visit last weekend, he received a scholarship offer from the Hoosiers. 247 Sports has him, the composite rankings have him as the 134th recruit. Their rankings have him at 118, generally right around there. He is a top 25 point guard in the country, 6 foot, 165 pounds, leading the way for Lawrence North, as we said. Part of a really talented crop of 2025 players in the state of Indiana. We've talked a lot about a number of them, but this is another one that the Hoosiers have offered. Another person in the state that the Hoosiers have offered as they continue to recruit the state of Indiana really hard for 2025. Jalen Haralson, obvious one, Darius Adams, both those guys at La Lumiere that Indiana is recruiting. But you have Trent Sisley, who was on campus in the last couple of weeks. You have Braylon Mullins, who received his scholarship offer, I believe, last week. Within the last week or two, he's out of Greenfield Central. And then you have Azavier Robinson out of Lawrence North. There are 9 recruits in the top 150 in the state of Indiana. It wasn't necessarily a great year, so to speak, for Indiana in 2024 comparatively. Badunga was a number 8 guy, but then it's all the way to 120 for the next one, 171. There's only 3 recruits in the top 200. So 2025 certainly a much stronger class. Now, should probably be noted, a lot of those guys are from La Lumiere, and not all those guys are Indiana products. But even outside of that, there's a lot of recruits at not La Lumiere schools. Heritage Hills for Sisley, Greenfield Central for Mullins, Lawrence North for Robinson. So it's a very talented 2025 class. There's going to be people all over the country if you guys want to go watch some high school basketball. People all over the state. If you want to go watch some high school basketball, watch them play in some of these contests. But especially if you're in the Indianapolis area, you can catch Xavier Robinson, who is athletic point guard, had a pretty strong summer from the sound of it, started to kind of rise up boards. It's still obviously a bit of a ways out at 2025. He's been around Bloomington a number of times. This wasn't his first trip to Bloomington. I think he was at a game or two last season. I remember as well. So someone that's been around the program, been familiar, similar to Sisley and Haralson in that same class, who have been around the program, been around the campus, been around Assembly Hall. And so familiar faces getting some of these official offers. It's going to be really interesting. There's a number of Indiana guys that the Hoosiers are going after in this 2025 class. There's a lot made about how hard you should recruit Indiana players. I think in a lot of ways that was, maybe not in a lot of ways. Tom Crean did do a great job of that, but Archie did do a good job of that. And one of those coaches won a couple of Big Ten titles and the other was woeful. So I don't think simply recruiting Indiana is the end all be all. But in years like 2025, where it's a loaded class, 6 guys are in the top 100 and 8 guys, as I said, are in the top 120. Yeah, you should be recruiting Indiana. It should be easy. You should have a presence in the state so that when years like 2025 come about, you can capitalize on it and you're not suddenly jumping into an AAU circuit to high schools that you haven't previously been to and made those connections. I think that's a fair kind of middle ground in this argument, is that you can't ignore Indiana and then jump in when Jalen Haralson's a top 10 recruit or when Trent Sisley's a 4-star recruit. You have to have made those connections prior. So I will say it seems like Mike Woodson has done that, and they've eyeballed it and found these guys ahead of time and knew that this was going to be a talented class and had Haralson and Sisley and Robinson to varying degrees around campus, around the program, and they were aware of them. And I think that those are the types of things that could matter in the long run in landing some of these guys. So Robinson, the latest of that group, I would expect he would be around. Hoosier Hysteria is coming up October 20th, a little over a month away, a little under a month away. I think you're going to see a number of these Indiana guys. I wouldn't be surprised if any of those 3 that we mentioned, Haralson, Sisley, Robinson, maybe Mullins as well. I think you're going to see a lot of guys like that attending Hoosier Hysteria, especially with Gucci Mane there. It's going to be an event I think a lot of kids are going to want to be at. I want to be at it. But Indiana's done a really good job, I think, of getting roots in on this 2025 class, especially with all the focus they've had toward the 2024 class. And it could pay big dividends for them. So Robinson gets the offer from the Hoosiers. The women's basketball team also recruiting some very, very good prospects. So we'll talk about who is on campus and where they're ranked, get you all the latest on that. Before we dive into that, we've mentioned over the last couple of days, DoorDash. If you guys burnt your last piece of toast or your avocado goes bad, is a hot sauce bottle empty? Nothing worse than that. Try grocery delivery from DoorDash. You'll get everything you want delivered when you need it right to your door. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you'll find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. If you want even more value, you can save on all your grocery and restaurant favorites with $0 delivery fee on all eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership as well. But the best offer that they have, you guys can get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to a $20 value when you use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at checkout. Limited time offer, terms apply. That's 50% off as long as you spend $20, which with the way groceries are right now, that should not be too hard. You'll get $0 delivery fee, and when you use code LOCKEDONCollege, you'll get that 50% off. Just download the DoorDash app in the App Store. Don't forget, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. College football season is well upon us. Conference season is here for pretty much everyone in the country. which means there's no better time to check out Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. They'll cover playoff implications, conference rivalry games. They'll be heating up. They'll go in depth like only Locked On can. If you want to hear them talk about Michael Penix and the Washington Huskies, be sure to check that out as well. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. I mean, on the topic of Michael Penix, was there anything more jarring than if you guys were like me after the IU game last Saturday? I immediately turned on Michael Penix in Washington. They were playing on ESPN, I believe. Watching IU's, frankly, inept offense, and then watching Washington's offense, Jesus. Kalen DeBoer is a genius. So I badly miss him and Michael Penix. Let's talk about women's basketball, who had another top recruit in Michaela Blakes. She visited IU this past weekend. I need to give a shout out for a number of reasons to Mackenzie Holmes, Yarden Garzon, a number of the basketball players on the roster who are sharing the Instagram posts of these recruits. It's a very niche thing I'm thanking them for, because this is how I'm finding out that recruits are on campus. But Michaela Blakes was on campus for the Hoosiers this past weekend. Back in early August, she made Indiana made her top 7, which included Indiana, Rutgers, Stanford, Tennessee, UCLA, Vanderbilt, and Wisconsin. Mark Schindler, who we've had on the show before, told Hoosiers Now, but he had this to say, quote, "She is legit with a really insanely good first step and good vertical pop. Blakes is a pretty good passer too, but I would consider her a little more score first. She can shoot off the catch. She can relocate. She's solid defensively. She's so good." Mark has been on here. He talked about Grace Berger, said that she was WNBA ready, and we saw that this year. He had plenty of kind things to say about Jalen Hood-Schifino, Trace Jackson-Davis. So someone we very much, a friend of the show that we very much respect. He's been on here a number of times. So I very much value his opinion in that. Now, Blakes is a top 10 recruit according to ESPN's rankings. She is number 10 in the 2024 class, a 6-foot guard. We know how much Teri Moren loves her big guards. This would absolutely be probably the biggest recruit version of that. I don't know. I can't say this for fact. I don't imagine Indiana's landed too many 5-star recruits on the women's side. So having her on campus, the picture I saw was her with the Big Ten trophy. So that it's very interesting. There's a lot of reasons why winning a Big Ten trophy is good, hot take. But something I've noticed on a lot of these recruiting pictures is they're letting the recruits take a picture with the Big Ten trophy. I mean, it's a good ancillary reason to win a Big Ten title, is that now you can show it off to recruits, and in all their recruiting photos, they get to hold this big old trophy. So one of the benefits of winning the conference that maybe we don't really think about. And we saw it with Michaela Bates. Zanya Saka also had a picture with the trophy. A lot of the recruits have had pictures with that trophy. So win a Big Ten title for a number of reasons, but so that you can give it to recruits and make their pictures look way cooler. Blakes is out of Rutgers Prep High School in New Jersey, which probably explains why Rutgers is in her top 7, because frankly, Rutgers hasn't been good in a little while, but could certainly be a factor in this one. Be on the lookout for that. Blakes, another top prospect in the 2024 class. We mentioned Saka, who is number 26 in the 2024 class. A lot of top recruits have been on campus in the last couple weeks for Indiana. Faith Wiseman already committed in that 2024 class. She's number 55 in the class. So Indiana could have a really impactful 2024 recruiting class, which is, I guess in some ways, I don't want to say the next step. Teri Moren hasn't been bad about recruiting, but that's how you turn this in from a really good couple seasons to a sustained power and landing these kind of top recruits, these top prospects, Blakes, Saka, people like that. Wiseman, a top 100 recruit, top 55 recruit. So continuing to nail recruits in the or throughout the years is going to be the challenge now for this program, but they're able to get in the door with players like Blakes because of the success they've had. An interesting note, I don't think it needs any big examination, but Aaliyah Guyton committed to Iowa. And yeah, it is that Guyton, daughter of AJ Guyton. She was the number 57 recruit in the 2024 class, a couple spots behind Faith Wiseman. It was just interesting to see. I have no clue how much Indiana was interested. We obviously don't get nearly as much recruiting information on the women's side as we do the men's side. I don't know if Indiana was interested. It was maybe a little surprising that she didn't, that there wasn't really anything about her with Indiana, at least publicly. What I would say, let Teri Moren cook. She has not had any issues in recruiting talent. I'm not going to get too worried about this. It was just kind of an interesting thing to note. Maybe adds a little bit to the IU-Iowa rivalry that's kind of growing really through the Caitlin Clark era. Those two teams have gone back and forth and in all of their meetings, really. So really adds to that rivalry. Just an interesting thing to note. IU has another visit with a very familiar name coming up as you're listening to this on Wednesday. We'll tell you who, as well as a top recruit, the Hoosiers are no longer being considered. We'll tell you who that is, maybe what that means, anything like that here in a few moments. Let's talk about another of today's sponsor, the Jace case. Everyone should be empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace case makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluations to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. I got mine the other day. It was very simple. You fill out a very quick survey, list any kind of ailments, issues, illnesses, anything you might have. You get an email from as they said, a medical professional. And mine was here within, I think, 2 days. And I have a case in my bathroom now, ready for anything, the unexpected, as I say. So get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using my code or our code locked on at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. The Hoosiers again are going to be visiting Boogie Fland this weekend, someone that they're very much making a priority. Yassir Rosemond is going to be the one watching him on Wednesday. It was just a few weeks ago that I believe it actually might have been last week that Mike Woodson was visiting him when he spoke at a coaching clinic in New York at Boogie's high school. Now Yassir Rosemond will be watching him. He's very clearly a priority target and someone the Hoosiers are investing a lot into. That being said, there's going to be other people there. This is kind of the period where coaches can go around to open gyms and visit guys and things like that. Alabama is going to be visiting Boogie as well on Wednesday. But just noteworthy how much Indiana is investing, how much energy, the resources Indiana is investing. Mike Woodson won't be there this time. I mean, the man just had surgery not that long ago. Also, IU is practicing on Thursday, so let Mike Woodson stay in Bloomington and work on that. Let Yassir Rosemond go to New York and visit Boogie. It's interesting. So Boogie hasn't taken official senior year visit to Indiana yet. There's still a possibility. It also sounds like he might want to have his decision made kind of before the season starts. And that is coming up rather quickly. What I would say, I've seen a lot of concern about Boogie's not going to get on campus. Why isn't he going to be here? He took his official visit for his junior year in June. We talked about it at the time. We said he was going to be on campus. June ain't that long ago, folks. It's not like it's been years or over a year since he's been on campus. It's been 3 months, maybe 4 months by the time he commits. You still would want him to take an official visit for his senior year. I'm sure IU wants him on campus, and especially this late, if he does want to make his decision in the end of October, sometime around there, you want to be kind of one of the last schools to get that visit. But I would say there doesn't maybe need to be a lot of worry about getting him on campus, and IU is certainly seeing him a lot anyway, so I don't think there should be a lot of need or a lot of reason for worry. They just had him on campus. I think things are fine in that regard. One recruit that the Hoosiers won't be landing is Asa Newell. I believe I'm saying that right. I know I've said it wrong before, so apologies on that. But one of the Montverde products that won't be really considering Indiana. At one point, the Hoosiers were in on him. He's a top 10 to 15 recruit, depending on which rankings you want to look at. A power forward, 6'9", 205 pounds, 5-star recruit from Montverde. Obviously, IU's been around Montverde, but there hasn't really been any sort of mention nearly as much about Newell. And for good reason. He announced his top 4. It does not include Indiana. Gonzaga, Georgia, Alabama, Texas are his top 4. So Indiana out of the mix there. I don't want to say a big worry. I mean, you're not going to land all of them. And obviously, IU has really prioritized some of his teammates. Derek Queen, Liam McNeely, Curtis Givens. A lot of those guys, they've seemed to prioritize more. I mean, probably for a reason. You're not going to land every recruit that you reach out to or anything like that. So I don't think there's much to worry about there, especially if they land some of these other guys. There's been a lot of Liam McNeely buzz. Admittedly, I held off for a little bit today because it seems like there could be a decision coming soon. We'll see how soon, but be on the lookout for that. He hasn't given a timeline. He hasn't announced a date. He hasn't really said anything on that regard, but certain accounts on Twitter who seem to know information are tweeting kind of those cryptic tweets that are really annoying and make you wonder what's going on, but it seems like McNeely could be close. That is what I will say. We'll see if that happens anytime here in the next, hopefully soon. Sooner he commits, I think the more or the better for Indiana, especially as they look to land a number of guys from Montverde. So you land one, I think you have some in-house recruiting in that regard as well. Thanks as always, guys, for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every single day. Tomorrow, we're going to have a preview show with Locked On Terps for the IU Maryland game. So be sure you guys check that out. Everydayers will be here as Friday as well to get you all the latest heading into that game against Maryland. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave a rating and review. All of that great stuff. Most importantly, though, guys, hope all of you have a great Wednesday. And as always, LEO.